Back on at 11:20. John, I haven't had a chance to check it yet, but here's the agenda cover sheet and marked up version of the career service manual showing modifications. Again, I haven't had a chance to check it yet, but it is the version that was in the Board of County Commissioners backup, so that should show all the changes. We spent a minute on talking about filling vacancies, this issue about the bus, lead bus driver came up, and we were able to pull some information on that. Kevin, want to explain what the process is and how that works?
Sure. Here's the job posting, if you guys want to pass these out to each other. I know you had a specific question. The job was posted for a week. That's got the closing date on it. Up at the top, it ran for a week. We posted jobs on Friday, closed that following Thursday. Put the list together. There were 3 in-house candidates, 6 or 7 outside candidates. All those apps have been referred to the department, so they're looking at it right now. Sharon McCart, there's nothing, no temporary work at a higher class. She has not been selected, nothing. She is not given that position, or whatever you said, they gave her the position. Nothing whatsoever reflects that at all.
Okay, because I heard she was just filling it right now, and, well, we never had this posted in our office. It was, but our operation manager isn't there either.
Right. Well, it's always all our jobs are always posted online. You can get to them through Inside Pasco. As far as paper copies distributed, that would be an internal departmental process. Hopefully they communicate to everyone and let you know, hey, we're getting ready to post this job. This is an in-house posting or outside posting, whatever. So there is probably opportunity for better communication everywhere, always.
The new list is up, but the old list, when this was up, wasn't up. It was prior to it, so.
Jim, did anybody in management say that she had stepped up into this position, or was it just her saying?
It was drivers from the other side that the 54 run that meets the west side 54 driver, that was communicated to. That's how it went.
They might have somebody on a route because they've got a gap, so they gotta fill the routes. And that's up to management, I need you on Route 1A or 8B or whatever the route number is, but she is not receiving temporary work at a higher class. There's no action form in her
Well, I
file.
think the big difference between, from what I've heard, a lead bus driver and just a bus driver, is that the lead driver, kind of does supervision of routes, right?
Yeah.
And where they drive around in a vehicle and a non-bus, like, or is that accurate, Jim, where they have a
Yeah.
clipboard marking times and stuff?
You got it right here.
Well,
says it.
aside from what that says, I'm asking you.
Yeah, that's what they do. They go around do monitoring,
Well, what are they driving when they're monitoring?
car.
Okay, a county vehicle?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess that's the proof in the pudding. If she's in a county vehicle driving around monitoring other drivers, she's certainly acting in the capacity of a lead bus driver.
Possibly.
And that's what we need to determine, whether it's rumor or it's fact, I guess, right?
Well, it's a fact that the position hasn't been filled.
Right. And, there's the standard language in all of our job descriptions, other duties as assigned. You might need somebody to fill in briefly, but there's no pay, there's no permanent selection. They didn't give her the job like an action form or anything official in her file.
I'm good with that. I mean, I was gonna get with Joe DeGeorge on it anyway, but he's still at home for cover.
When is he expected to come back? I don't know.
I talked to him last night, he's thinking like 3 weeks, he'll be out longer. And D. Rollins is filling in for that.
All right, well, thank you for looking into that.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
No problem. We keep an eye on everything.
I will
Just follow the
communicate
process.
that it's under selection process as we go on. right?
Sure. And if anybody ever has questions, they call us, we'll look into it.
Well, there's quite a few, I mean, long before you were on, Kevin, as far as involved in the bargaining process. I mean, and I was talking to the committee all on caucus, and some of the committee members said, you know what, I've already kind of been there, done that, I've already told my story repeatedly, and we know that there are certain situations that have happened in the past, and going back 2 or 3 years, I mean, I don't think they're going to fix something that happened 2 or 3 years ago, I wouldn't imagine you would. But we have a need to have, and like I said, I'm the first person to dispel, as this is an example, okay? I don't have time to be chasing rumors, you know what I mean? But if someone heard something, I heard something, and then by the time we scratch beneath the surface, it's all a bunch of rumors, then there's no grievance. But that doesn't, to say that for every one of those instances, there are other instances where, because I have people on my committee that have lived and experienced being slighted, you know, and so we just need to have something change from what's there. And you know, not to say, I mean, I don't know about the person, Sharon, that was given this position. If she is, as an example, put into this lead bus driver, you don't know about it because there's no record of it, and she's not officially in that position, and she's not even getting paid what she should be getting paid, but she doesn't care because she gets to drive around, you know, in an air-conditioned car all day long. So we don't know if that kind of stuff's going on either, and I really don't have enough time.
My guess is that practice is common, from my own witness, where I am and in other places.
This is what I'd like to do. I'd like to respond to the document that you gave us today, and then have a handout for things that are not in there, most of which you've probably already seen. So looking at, I don't have any response to the table of contents because I plan on revising all that anyway when we alphabetize the provisions. So moving along to Article 1, preamble, we're okay with that change. Article 2, recognition. I don't necessarily like the word issued. I don't think it belongs in there. Not really an appropriate term. I mean,
It was issued by the Public Employees Relations Commission. That's what they do, they issue a certification. Pick another word.
It's a certification, right? I mean, it's,
Pick another word.
I don't think there needs to be any word. I think just putting the date in there, which we
Great.
actually propose.
We're fine with that. A comma after the 1744,
Yeah.
delete the word issue.
Issue, yeah. And then, you know, I wrote the month out, I don't care if it's abbreviated in numerical form. So you're okay with that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, on page 5 of 49, I have 3 sentences to insert into that paragraph. I'm just going to read them to you.
Okay.
So our counter proposal would read, F, written reprimands and warning letters may not be appealed, but the employee, and then insert after the word employee, or union on behalf of an employee, comma. May submit.
Hang on a second.
Of an employee.
Yeah.
May submit a written, excuse me, may submit a written response and then insert in the form of a letter of protest. Put that in quotes, I guess, letter of protest. And back to your verbiage. Let me know when you call it.
Go ahead.
Provided the response is submitted within 10 days of the written reprimand or warning letter, I'm going to insert after the word letter being issued, and then comma, to the Human Resources Director. So the flow would be, provided the response is submitted within 10 days of the written reprimand or warning letter being issued, comma, to the Human Resources Director, meaning that's who we're submitting it to. Unless you want to put the reference of the Human Resources Director, in fact, you know what, it's probably a better spot. In the second sentence of your proposal, it says, provided a response is submitted within 10 days. In between submitted and the word within, we'll insert submitted to the Human Resources Director.
Okay.
And And then going back to within 10 days of the written reprimand or warning letter, and then having the words being issued. Which I think is important because we've had situations where an employer would date a letter June 1st, and it wasn't issued until June 15th, but it still says June 1st.
So how's the word issued different than the one we just struck in Article 2?
Because this is not perfect. You know, we got issues with the word issue. All right, on page 7 of 49.
I'll take it up with my counselor.
On page 7 of 49, we're rejecting the county proposal on all that new verbiage for drug-free workplace, just leaving the status quo.
So it's just under the status quo. The status quo permits random drug testing. So whatever process is done administratively, that'll be all right. I mean, because Article 5A already provides for random testing.
I understand.
Without any limitation. Should we limit it to what the statute says we limit to, or just the statute will control?
Actually, we'll just strike the word random drug test. Or actually,
We can't do that because the statute says that public employees in mandatory positions are subject to random testing.
then we'll put a random drug test to applicable employees.
That's an A? You're
Yeah,
suggesting
and
that?
correct. The county may, at its discretion, require an employee to submit a post-accident drug test, a random drug test to applicable employees, comma. Inserting that in there, and then deleting all your, new verbiage. And, you know, all those who hold the CDL are obviously, subject to, a random drug testing. They would fall under the category of applicable employees.
All right, so absent spelling out the language in F, I'll just run through you just generally, I think it would work. A list of employees selected randomly would be generated. The county would go to one of them and say, come with me, it's time for your random drug test. Okay, that's how easy it would be. Do you have an issue with that?
If there's an issue with the way the drug test has been facilitated, as it says at the tail end of it, we'll pay first and read later.
And obey it, but they agree. Okay.
Read later.
John, that might work, that's simple.
You know, obviously, what our concern is, and I understand there's random drug testing is already in the language, but to expand on that and not include anybody who's in non-bargaining, the committee has told me that they would prefer to see the entire workforce subject to this, and you said that we don't have a right to bargain for non-bargaining employees. But,
If there's any dispute about that.
okay, Article 7, collateral documents, that's just open and new, this is,
Wow.
this handout here, take a look at it. And if I am satisfied that all of the revisions from, it was prior to, including and prior to November 14 are in compliance with our CDA, then we'll probably need to.
Well, not them, so everybody else.
Open union to review.
It's good,
Page 9 of 49, the 2-inch by 3-inch patch we're okay with. In Article 9, page 9 of 49. The only thing I would imagine this came from is, just before the ratification of the agreement, I had asked Barbara DeSimone to provide a list of the employees. I think it was the only couple of times I've done it, the 2 ratification votes. And I had asked for it as soon as possible, and it was provided to me as soon as possible. So, I don't know what the issue is, outside of that, unless you got ruffled feathers about that, but,
Well, actually, language didn't come from her at all. I borrowed it from another contract that provided a more definitive
as a
procedure.
reaction to her complaint, though.
No, I didn't even know there was one, but thanks for telling me.
Well, why is there a need, first of all, we're rejecting 5 days, but why is there a need to have any time limit at all?
So that everybody understands the process, and no request will end longer than a specific period of time. It'll get done. You know, the work expands to fill the time allocated for it. This is an example of, we have 5 business days to process
But
it.
could, I mean, if it's not an issue-driven proposal, then why even have a need to propose it at all? I mean,
To provide
I'm using
clarity.
your own,
To provide clarity in that article.
I think 2 business days is adequate.
All right, you agree to it with 2 business days?
That's our comment.
That's your comment, or that's your?
Counter.
Oh, counter? Okay.
Are we okay with that?
Yeah, we're okay with that.
Our proposal for Article 10 still stands. And like I said, we're going to be passing out proposals from today, most of which you have seen. So any of the rejections, I'm just going to note that our proposal still stands, but there may have been a modification, maybe not. So that applies also to Article 11. Article 13, union bulletin boards. We'd like to kind of leave that open because we feel there's a couple of bulletin boards that may not be really in a suitable location for our needs, and we may want to replace them or insert new ones. I know for certain that the new utilities building in Langa Lakes and Central Boulevard is going to be one that we have, but just for the time being, we're just going to leave that open. And the next bargaining session, we should have a better list. On Article 16, union stewards, I want to note that our proposal still stands, but in your proposal, I would like to respond to a couple things. Section A, which is on page 12 of 49, we're okay with that. I think it's basically what our proposal was. Yeah, you're accepting our proposal, so obviously they were okay. Now, B is new, and there's nothing currently restricting how many stewards can attend the meeting right now. But if you want to put a limitation of 1, would be willing to agree to that, provided that unpaid becomes paid. And I think that's fair, that if the county is that's not so much that the county is paying for something, it's that the steward is not realizing a loss of pay. And I think that's a concept that needs to be clarified. Instead of penalizing an employee.
We're not penalizing an employee.
By not paying them, you are. By telling them they have to be there, that they can't be paid. That's penalizing them. Because you're paying the grievant to be there. You're paying in a disciplinary meeting. You're paying the employee who's being disciplined to be there. But tell me how that's fair. If you figure if you're going to tell an employee that you screwed up so bad, I'm going to be suspending you, but I'm going to pay you while I'm doing that, but you, who've done nothing wrong, that you're simply there in the capacity of a representative, I'm going to penalize you by taking that pay away from you.
Well, the person's there not as a representative of the county, but of the union. So
Correct.
they've taken off their county employee hat, they put on their union representative hat. They should be paid by the union.
they should not be penalized like you're trying to do, or like you're arguing. So anyway, our counter proposal on that is that we're willing to agree to a limitation of one steward for attending the meetings that are in the function of a human steward, provided they suffer no loss of pay. In absence of that, agreement, then our proposal still stands, which I'll be presenting again in our packet. And D, we reject. It all falls under our proposal. Article 17, we're rejecting your proposal to delete that language until such time we reach an agreement on the steward's language. So today, we're rejecting the proposal of deletion of that language. Page 13 of 49, Article 18, probationary employees. We had a discussion about the impact of the new language, C, and as well as the deletion of well, I guess the replacement of C. We're willing to agree to the new language in C, as proposed. Just as a question though, why is it that you're seeking to delete the references to license or certification requirements? Is that an oversight?
It's not an oversight, because it could be part of the foregoing. The concept would merge. We wouldn't have a limit of why it could be extended.
Well, the thing is, if you're extending a probationary period and you do newly proposed language, you have to give a reason, and there's an assumption that it's performance-based, because otherwise you wouldn't be providing a performance improvement plan. Where if somebody is waiting for their certification period to conclude, that wouldn't be a performance issue. So, I mean, do you want to put some?
You want to just move up the clause after the first sentence where it now says identifying performance problem areas or need for training / certification course completion?
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate. So it kind of covers both.
Okay. That change would be all right.
Page 1549. Explain your Q, what FMCS's role. I mean, I didn't know you had the authority to tell them what they can do, can't do.
Oh, actually, with FMCS, you can tell them that all you're looking for is a panel.
What else
And then all that, they send you the list and they're done with their file. They don't do the follow-up notices. They don't do any compliance issues. They don't, there's nothing else that they do. So they do offer just give us the panel option, which is what that language is intended to cover. If you go to their website, you'll see that, that's one of the choices of what they could do. That was what that was intended to do. They have no power to enforce the arbitration, to direct the arbitrator to do things.
Yeah, but
issue subpoenas, anything of that nature.
My understanding, well, I didn't think they did, but a couple things come to mind. Number one is FMCS, in my experiences, will send a letter to the arbitrator appointing them.
That's why the second sentence says that we'll handle the notification.
Well, I don't know if that's something that I want to take away from FMCS. I mean, if part of their role is saying, hey, we have facilitated the process of providing a panel, the parties have responded, and this is their selection, you have been appointed. in absence of that, I guess what your proposal is just give me a list and we'll take it from there.
Right.
And what if there's a dispute over, we struck and, on the phone, and, I said, we want, choice number 2 from the panel, and he said, well, that's not what we picked, John, we picked number 3, and I said, no, we picked 2. And who's
Has that ever
gonna
happened?
govern that
I've
dispute?
done 1,000 selections and I've never had that happen.
Well, what's your issue for wanting to take them out of what their normal operating procedure
To
is?
facilitate the notification to the arbitrator, and all we need is the list.
But if there's ever a dispute over the selection process, who would we go to? My guess was you go to FMCS, they're the ones that gave you the list. Or if we select an arbitrator who's no longer certified, between the time they provided the panel to the time that we selected and struck, somehow they lost their accreditation because they did something so wild, they're no longer affiliated with FMCS. I mean, I just don't see, I don't understand why you want to, their goal is to facilitate this process and why you're trying to limit that unless you've got some sort of reason.
I just explained what my reason was. You want to
Well, you
just,
explained what your request is, I get that. That's not a reason of why you have the request.
my reason is
What went wrong?
nothing went wrong, but FMCS could slow the process down. We could move it quicker by notifying the arbitrator.
I've never had any experience, any delays at all with FMCS.
All right, I'll take that under
And there's
consideration.
nothing keeping the parties from contacting the arbitrator directly anyway. I mean, usually what I do, once the letter gets sent out, hey, guess what, you've been selected, if you don't know it or not, if you don't know it yet, you've been selected, so what are your available dates? I usually like to get a jump on their scheduling, so,
All right, I'll reconsider the addition of that language. What else you have on? step three?
S, I would like to add at the end of the sentence that's not bolded in red or underlined, it says, when arbitrability is raised by the county with respect to any grievance, the issue of arbitrability shall be determined by the arbitrator. I only have the words the arbitrator, and then strike the rest of that.
Can't agree to that.
Well, I can't agree with you have.
The change in the statute specifically makes reference to the issue of who determines arbitrability. So I'm not gonna agree to something that's inconsistent with the New Florida Arbitration Code.
I don't think that having an arbitrator determine arbitrability is something that's illegal or against Florida statutes. Is it?
It specifically says in the new statute that the court determines arbitrability.
When you present it to the court.
It says that that was the change that was made. That there was an issue under Florida law about who could determine arbitrability. The new code clarifies it and says that a court does.
In the current language, even though you have it underlined in red, it's determined by the court. Is this the current language in CDA now, right?
I think that's the current language.
I don't know why it's,
Let's look at, yeah, current contract, the other book there.
that's,
Something must be missing there, because the sentence wouldn't be complete at that period, right?
what it says is when S, the current S, when arbitrability is raised by the county with respect to any grievance, the issue of arbitrability shall be determined by the arbitrator no less than 30 days prior to the commencement of an arbitration hearing on the grievance itself.
Right.
Okay, so our kind of proposal is just simply to leave the status quo. What is the date? You're saying that there's a new statute that takes that power away, and I would imagine that's an absence of a collective bargaining agreement. I mean, what is the date of that new statute going to effect?
It was within the last year, I believe. Want me to check it?
Well, it was prior to this thing being agreed to, this agreement, right?
It was, no, I don't think so. I can't tell the date that it took effect, but it was Laws of Florida 2014-24 and 13-232. I can't tell from this site when it went into it took effect, but I could get that.
All right, in your legal opinion as an attorney, an officer of the court, is the current language in conflict with state statutes?
No.
It's not illegal.
Is the language I've proposed or the current
Current
language?
language, status quo. Is that in conflict with Florida state statutes, meaning that it's illegal? It's not in conflict with some law regarding the civil arbitrations. Is there anything illegal about the current language that's in S?
I don't know.
I'm not gonna say no. And so anyway, our kind of proposals is just to leave the status quo, and we reject all the additional language about your civil procedures regarding arbitrability. I'm waiting on you, just so you know.
Just give it a second. Okay, go ahead.
All right, we still have our proposal on seniority. To go into the document on page 19 of 49, Article 25, annual leave. The proposal reads, new employees who are on probation will accrue the appropriate leave hours. However, they are not eligible to use those hours until the probation is completed. We're okay with that. We want to agree to that. On page 22 to 49 in your proposal, section AA. That's just a grammatical change, right?
Right.
Yeah, we're okay with that. Article 26, medical leave, which is on page 24 to 49 of your proposal. Section D. Taking a closer look at your proposal, I am assuming that first sentence should not be there, because it's kind of contradictory to the second sentence, or is there some other?
It's just not clear. New employees can accrue leave hours, but they're not eligible to use those hours until until the probation is completed. The next sentence, the probation employee who takes medical leave, probably should just say who takes leave. Since they can't take medical leave during probation, they would have to take just leave.
Well, my suggestion would be, I mean, that first sentence is the one that's found under annual leave that we've already said. I don't know if we've already said or not. But I'm assuming that your proposal could just start with the second sentence saying the probationary employee who takes medical leave will have that time docked from hours worked. Because apparently you're giving them the ability to take medical leave while on probation, but you want to extend the probationary period at the same time.
That didn't work clearly. The intent was that they would accrue their time, but they couldn't tap into that time during probation.
But
They
medical
could
leave you
take,
can.
they could take, look, they might have to take medical leave. That would just be unpaid leave. It wouldn't
Oh,
be-
so you're
it wouldn't be
saying
paid
the
from
words
their
medical
bank.
leave should be
Just delete
changed
the
to
word
unpaid.
medical.
Medical should be struck and put unpaid.
Yeah, that would do it.
So you can't take annual leave, you can't take medical leave, you can't take any other kind of contractual leave. But you can be granted unpaid leave apparently, and then that unpaid leave will be tacked on to the end of their probationary period.
That's right.
So there's two locations where it says medical. In the second sentence, it's replacing unpaid, and the first, so it takes unpaid leave, will have that time docked from the hours worked, and the probationary period extended by the time spent on unpaid leave. Right?
That's right.
I just got one question.
Sure.
What if you have to go to the doctor or the dentist, you know, you're gonna be penalizing and it's gonna be added on later? Because we are humans, we break down, we need medical assistance. So, you take 3 hours to go to the dentist or the doctor, and then that's gonna be unpaid leave, and it'll be tacked on to the,
You have a 6 hour, a 6 month, 3 hour probationary period.
yeah.
Well, we could put language in that doesn't deal with hours, but deals with days.
But even, I guess there's no limitation on what a leave is, right? There's no minimum requirement for how much a leave is considered. But a leave can be 1 day, a leave can be a week, or a month, or longer, right? So unpaid leave equaling, I mean, what is it now? How does it work now when a probationary employee has to go to a doctor appointment?
It's not tagged on to the end of the probation.
Right, you get to use, you're accumulating sick leave and vacation time, and you use it then. Because we're not all robots, you know. It's not like, you gotta be here 6 months, nothing can happen, you know. We're treated like humans, imperfect.
So right now, probationary employees have the ability to use both annual leave and medical leave, right?
Both, right, yeah.
Yes.
Both. Yes.
All right, then you know what, I'm gonna put these on hold for further discussion in the committee, so I'm gonna go back and, Article 25, annual leave. I wanna just put a hold next to that, I'm gonna withdraw article, and I need to know kind of anyway, but, and then I'll put this one on hold as well. Page 31 of 49, which is Article 29, Section B, which is about the recipient of annual medical leave donations has to be their own illness. We're okay with that. Page 34 to 49, Article 35, exclude, time excluded. We're going to reject the insertion of the word plan, and if annual leave is approved, it's approved. It's approved, it's all like what the status quo is, we're gonna maintain that. Page 37 of 49, which is Article 39, promotions. Even though we have a seniority provision that speaks to promotions, if the county were willing to agree to our counter proposal, we would tweak our seniority proposal. Again, just looking for a fair shake. Your proposal reads, in B, all vacancies in bargaining unit positions will be open to all applicants without regard to current employment and filled with the most qualified applicant, as determined by the county. We're willing to agree to concept of the most qualified applicant, but we just want to end the sentence there. Strike as determined by the county, because that would imply that the county's decision is not something we can challenge. And so, what's the worth of that verbiage if county makes the determination is what? In other words, it's not something we can appeal, or challenge, or anything. It's just. We determine the most qualified, we don't care what you say, that's all there is to it. It's not even worth the mentioning it. So if you can live with striking those last words, we will withdraw, which is essentially the requirement in our seniority proposal to hire from within first, giving you freedom to put the most qualified applicant in there. It's just that we gotta have the ability to challenge that.
We can't agree with that change and convert, every decision regarding promotion into a grievance.
No, I don't think it would be
I think we have the potential for doing that. At some point, any employer of the county in this particular, case has to have the final word on who they hire.
The initial contracts, the initial contract, and the several years it took to get that first one written, there was this underlying fear from your bargaining team, which consists of you and Barbara DeSimone, over how many grievances were going to be filed and how we're going to spend all our time and all our money in arbitration. And even your proposals today about arbitrability ultimately are based in what I perceive to be a mistrust that you think we're going to be wanting to arbitrate cases that have nothing to do with the contract. I think the last couple of years of experience dealing with us that we've proven that not to be the case, and then all that concern and all that worry was for naught, because we don't send junk cases to arbitration. We're not like some other organizations that have to do things based on political decisions within the organization. We're exempt from that.
Well, then you should be happy with the promotions article the way it reads right now then. Right? Because
What's going to change?
you tell me what's going to change.
Nothing. Nothing is going to change.
And has it been an issue for you since the contract's been?
It's been an issue with us since day one.
You
Every
signed-
single.
you signed off on the language, so.
Hasn't been an issue.
You've signed off on the
We
language that's
signed
in the
off, we
contract.
signed off on language because we wanted to get a contract done, and we understood that the bargaining relationship is something that has to grow over time. You can't get it all at once, and that's something, the words that you were, I'm paraphrasing, but.
We got it on
But this-
video.
But this is a
Yeah.
different proposal.
It's
What
got it
you're
on video.
proposing is to create a whole new class of grievances. That's very different than a minor step-by-step revision and improvement to the contract.
If you are not
Your language
hiring-
would create a whole new class of grievance.
Only if the county is in the practice of hiring are not hiring the most qualified applicant, then yeah, probably so. Because if the county's in the practice of not hiring the most qualified applicant and hiring Billy Bob's brother-in-law, then you may get a whole new class of grievances. But if the county is hiring the most qualified applicants whenever there's more than one person applying for a job, then there may be some grievances filed, and there probably be a lot of grievances withdrawn. So either the issue exists or it doesn't exist. And if it doesn't exist, you're not gonna have any grievances. Certainly not gonna have any arbitration. You may have some grievances filed, but they're not gonna go anywhere. They'll be without merit. But if, again, the county's participating in that sort of practice where they're hiring who they just want to hire, regardless of how qualified they are, then yeah, you may have some grievances.
But you have to admit that the determination of qualification has subjective elements to it.
What happened in my circumstance where I was deemed the most qualified?
I don't know if that's a fact or not.
So suppose it was.
I was. I called personnel, and personnel told me I was number one on the list.
Well, number one, when a list is generated, it's just a list that you've met the minimum qualifications for a position. It doesn't necessarily mean you're the most qualified. And, I challenge you to tell me who in HR told you were the most qualified individual.
Whoever handles the utilities department. I'm not sure who that is.
It's kind of hard for me to prove or disprove that.
Well, would you agree,
Don't you think?
would you agree, Jim, that if he was the most qualified candidate, that he should have been entitled to get the position? Do you agree with that at least?
Well, I think the most qualified candidate is the one that the county says is most qualified. I don't see how there's a challenge to
You
that.
don't think there's ever someone put into a position that is not the most qualified, but it's just a choice of the county? Probably don't know.
There'd be no way for me to know
Exactly.
that. Okay.
So this
But I'm not gonna-
ensures,
but I'm not
that
gonna-
it won't happen. When we
No,
have
it
the
doesn't. It
ability-
ensures that we're gonna have a grievance and some arbitrator come in and try to substitute his or her judgment for the county HR department or the department heads about who's most qualified.
Well, the thing is,
But that arbitrator's not gonna pay that individual or evaluate them after the fact. They're just gonna pack up and go home.
yeah, but the thing is, that determination by the county has to be substantiated by something in the way of documentation, right? Because when the county says this person's the most qualified applicant, they're going to have documents saying why. They're gonna have test results if a test was given. They're gonna have.
I think we can meet that challenge, but I don't think that the way to appeal it is through arbitration, which is what you're getting to here.
Well, not everything goes to arbitration. In fact, we
It
haven't
does
had
if
an
you-
arbitration yet.
It does
so-
if you say it does. This will be a new window of opportunity for arbitration.
Only if there's a contract violation. And the only reason a contract violation would occur is because the county hired someone who wasn't the most qualified applicant.
So
And it's
we end up-
clear as a bell, because you look at the paperwork, and this person doesn't have qualifications, doesn't have the credentials, doesn't have the skills, doesn't have any proven work record whatsoever. And this employee,
John, we're not going to agree to language that substitutes the county's determination of who's most qualified with the union's determination of who's most qualified, or for that matter, an arbitrator's determination. You want to play around with language and come up with some way to have a review of the selection that doesn't move on to arbitration or appeal? I'd take a look at that kind of language.
who does the review go to?
Well, you could work on that, I don't know.
I got an idea, it goes to an arbitrator. I mean, because if it doesn't go to anybody outside of the county and ultimately lies in the power of the county, then it's just a moot point. The whole thing is an exercise of futility, because we're going to simply challenge something that the county's already made a decision, and we're going right back to who can make the decision.
That's the way life works sometimes.
That's the way life works in your world.
Sometimes there's an end to the dispute by somebody making a decision on it. In our particular case, we think the county administration is most qualified to determine who the prevailing applicant should be. Not the union, not a union committee, not an arbitrator, not some other third party.
Billy Bob.
Another county
Well,
agency,
we have our,
perhaps another county agency, as we've seen in the past year.
I'm not sure what that means. What is that?
Haven't we seen the Pasco Sheriff's Office question the county's choice for an applicant that the county sheriff was preferred? I mean, he's a county officer.
That's exactly the same analogy as could be applied to a bargaining unit.
I think similar in nature.
There's
I mean,
different, he's a
what-
constitutional officer, there's a different relationship and decision-making process. This is a contract, we're dealing with an issue of promotion here. Our position is the county administration is in the best position to determine who's most qualified, and that decision is not subject to challenge.
It's not subject to debate, right? I mean, you just want it to be a managerial right, through and through.
Absent somebody making a case that if there was, some bias or prejudice that's illegal as a matter of law, that's the end of it, it's got to end there.
Well, that doesn't meet our needs because we've experienced, some promotions and people put into positions that were just patently unfair. They have nothing to do with his skills, abilities, or qualifications. They have to do with personality. And that's what we're trying to address. And again, not saying that we have the ultimate authority, it's just saying that we have the ability to require the county to demonstrate how that person's most qualified. And if they can't, then what do? Your proposal is, you just shrug your shoulders and say, oh, well, we disagree.
Well, some contracts have a provision that says, has language to the effect that the employee that doesn't receive the promotion will be told the reasons why. My experience with that is that's a two-edged sword. Then you have a document that's in the employee's personnel file that points out all their negative points. But, is that what you want? You want the county to articulate why the person was not selected?
As long as they have the ability